Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Mitchell Ringos. OPP continued to investigate a fatal highway crash near Chappaqua yesterday morning, which claimed the lives of two Winnipeg residents in a transport truck. The rig collided with another transport and at least one of the vehicles caught on fire. Constable Matt Foster with the Northwest Region OPP describes what happened.
On September 17th at approximately 3:30 a.m., members of the Thunder Bay and Chappaqua OPP detachments, as well as other emergency services, responded to a report of a two commercial motor vehicle collision on Highway 1117 near Finnmark Road. Unfortunately, as a result of that collision, a 23 and a 34-year-old of Winnipeg were pronounced deceased.
Foster says two people in the other transport remain in hospital with serious injuries. The highway between Chappaqua and Sistonen's Corner was completely closed for around 20 hours while police investigated the crash scene and fire crews put out the blaze. There is no detour available along that part of the Trans-Canada Highway, and transports and other vehicles were backed up for several kilometers on both sides of the crash site.
The highway was closed for an extended period of time and reopened to one lane last night at 11 p.m. on September 17th. Our thoughts are with the families that are affected by this collision, and we're thinking of them through this tragic time. We also like to thank members of the public who are traveling along 1117 for their patience, as the highway was closed for OPP technical collision investigators to process the scene.
The Ministry of Transportation says that area will continue to be reduced to one lane of alternating traffic this evening and overnight, while the highway undergoes repaving due to the damage from the crash and the fire. Mayor Ken Boschkoff will look for City Council's endorsement at tonight's meeting at City Hall to become the latest Ontario strong mayor, but he hasn't ruled out going forward regardless. The province announced last month that Thunder Bay will become eligible for strong mayor powers if the mayor commits to achieving Ontario housing targets. Some of the powers granted to strong mayors include the ability to fire and hire city managers and to veto bylaws passed by council if they don't adhere to provincial priorities. Boschkoff would also be able to propose the budget subject to council amendment. He explains how that might look.
The budget is first and foremost in everybody's mind. So how will it be handled any differently? I think that maybe the gentle nudge of a strong mayor may help some projects and some parts of it. So, but I wouldn't view it as here's Ken's budget, love it or leave it.
While Boschkoff is asking for support at tonight's meeting, he doesn't need it to pursue strong mayor powers. Boschkoff simply needs to commit in writing by October 15th that he'll meet Ontario housing targets. The Transportation Safety Board is still gathering information about a recent plane crash west of Fort Frances. 3 people escaped serious injury on Thursday when a Cessna 172 struck a power line before hitting the ground and flipping onto its roof in a field near Stratton. According to a TSB spokesperson, the plane was registered to Manitoba-based Harv's Air and was on a rental flight to an unregistered landing site. The pilot apparently had to abort a landing and lost control, colliding with a power line and then overturning once it hit the ground. The plane sustained heavy damage, but because there were no major injuries, the TSB did not send investigators to the scene and is instead collecting details regarding the crash. After being without a local justice for 11 years, Fort Frances finally has a new permanent judge. Justice Terry Peter Waltbury was appointed to the Fort Frances courthouse today by the Ontario Court of Justice. Waltenbury was called to the bar in 2001 and most recently served as a Crown attorney in Sudbury. The legal system at Fort Frances has been relying on traveling judges since 2012. In a statement, the Rainy River District Law Association thanked area MPP Greg Rickford and Attorney General Doug Downey for their support and understanding the need for a locally based judge. Leaders with the company looking to build a lithium processing facility in Thunder Bay say they're focused on local job creation. Officials with Avalon Advanced Materials visited the city on Friday and met area stockholders at the Sencan Resource Expo, including those from the college and university. They plan to have the facility be built at the former mill site on Lakeshore Drive by 2027. The visit was a first for Avalon President Zishan Saeed. He says partnering with post-secondary institutions would benefit everyone.
Making sure the departure point for us, there's a parallel track with them. They've got the time to co-create, the right programming, the right skills. Part of what Avalon is looking at also is creating those pathways for the young people in Thunder Bay. We've heard loud and clear how it's a big issue, upskilling and reskilling and not losing the young people to other parts of Ontario and the country.
If constructed, the lithium processing facility is expected to create 500 jobs. Avalon's next steps include feasibility work and site preparation. Ontario's premier sat down with Toronto's new mayor today, which is the first meeting since Olivia Chow took office. The relationship between the two is unlikely to be plain sailing. In a lengthy critique of Chow days before Toronto went to vote, Ford predicted businesses would flee the city if she were elected and said workers should be terrified. Despite this, both were positive about their relationship today, saying they share a desire to lower the cost of housing and build thousands of new units in Toronto.
We also agreed the path forward needs to be rooted in supporting smart and effective growth, not painful program cuts or new taxes on people and businesses. This working group will have a mandate to bring forward solutions.
The only way to accomplish something is by working together. And there's a pledge that we'll work closely together in order to accomplish this new deal. I am extremely pleased about that.
The Regional Food Bank received over 7,000 pounds of food donations over the weekend, but the struggle to stock the shelves isn't over yet. The food drive to support the RFDA was organized by the United Way with drop-offs at local grocers and other locations. Josh Morano reports.
Local service clubs and the United Way helped to hold a citywide food drive for the RFDA last week, and thousands of non-perishable items were donated. The items are almost done being sorted and organized by the staff and volunteers, as well as one lone mango. With the boxes piled to the ceiling, Community Services Manager Brendan Carlin acknowledges those who donated.
We ended up with about 3 tons of food, just over 3 tons. We're still, as you can see, they're still working on it and weighing it. I don't know how much cash we've gotten in, though. I would expect several $1,000s, though. This is a good boost and a good opening to the giving season, if you will.
While Carlin is happy with the success of the food drive, he says food banks are struggling nationwide. The Sault Ste. Marie Food Bank, which is the equivalent of the RFDA, recently had to close due to monetary concerns. Albert Brule and the United Way announced the local food drive last week in an effort to help and support the community and those who need it most. Carlin says despite these latest donations, it will still be a struggle for them in the days ahead.
We're feeling the pinch. This drive, as it was a great drive. It will fill the shelves for a while and help feed people for a while. However, we have ongoing needs that we will need to meet in the coming months and years even.
The food drive for the Regional Food Distribution Association was a success, and workers are packing away to make sure these boxes get out within the next 2 days. The RFDA is hosting another food drive from October 5th to 7th, and they're anticipating nearly double the donations. Josh Morano, TBT News.
Hundreds of residents ran and walked around Boulevard Lake yesterday afternoon for the 43rd annual Terry Fox Run. They joined the hundreds of thousands of people running this weekend for cancer research. Terry Fox's legacy continues to motivate people to this day to continue his marathon of hope. The Thunder Bay Run took runners, walkers, and cyclists on a 5K route around the lake. Each year, the Thunder Bay branch raises around $15,000 through donations and pledges, with all proceeds going to the Terry Fox Foundation. To date, the foundation has raised over $850 million for cancer research, and local run chair Don Morrison says Fox's legacy hasn't just inspired Canadians.
It's amazing when you think about it. I know they have runs and walks in Asia and Africa and Europe. It's all over the world. So to have a Canadian person get that kind of an impact around the world is quite phenomenal. It keeps Terry's legacy alive, and everybody knows his story about cancer. And there's so many people that are impacted themselves or their family impacted by cancer. So I think it's really important that we celebrate him every year.
If you'd like to know more about Terry Fox's story or to donate to the Terry Fox Foundation, you can go online to terryfox.org. The fourth Wake the Giant Music Festival rocked the waterfront this past weekend. The concert drew thousands of people to Marina Park for the event focused on welcoming Indigenous youth to the city. The lineup featuring some well-known artists, including Dean Lewis and headliner Deadmau5. Jess Clement has more.
A lineup of local artists, mixed with world-renowned headliners, rocked the marina on Saturday for the 4th annual Wake the Giant Music Festival. Brooklyn rockers ex-ambassadors pumped up the evening crowd by opening with their song Renegade, and were joined by a jingle-dress dancing group featuring Dennis Franklin Cromartie students. Grade 12 student Harmony Fiddler says it was a rewarding and surreal experience.
I seen the crowd and I was like, holy man, like, that's crazy. And so, but once I heard the beat, it was like a soft jump in the back and I followed that. And it just got easier from there.
Pop singer-songwriter Dean Lewis was up next, with a performance that pulled at the heartstrings. And as evening turned to night, deadmau5 dazzled the audience with lasers and pumping bass, and of course you can't forget his iconic helmet. Earlier in the day saw local drum group Thunder Spirit, Sarah Kay, Sagate, and a variety of other artists and genres. Greg Chomut, a teacher at DFC and one of the organizers of the festival, said the lineup is a carefully calibrated balancing act.
A big part of our goal is promoting Indigenous artists. So it's always going to be more than 50% Indigenous artists on the lineup. And then we're thinking of all kinds of things. We're thinking of bands that are open to working with students. We're thinking of bands that our students are going to really enjoy. And we're thinking about bands that the greater area of Thunder Bay are going to really enjoy.
The concert helps welcome new DFC students and brings together Indigenous and non-Indigenous music fans as part of a cultural awareness project. DFC students are involved in all aspects of the festival, and a highlight of this year's was a performance by Malachi Beardy and his music class. Organizers were expecting upwards of 6,000 people in attendance on Saturday. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
What an event it was, Fiona. The weather held off. No rain for Wake the Giant. We saw rain last year, but the temperature is also sitting fairly nicely today.
Yes, it did. I was quite nervous most of the weekend. I was going to have angry phone calls, but things looked good this weekend, and it was a nice start to the new week. It was definitely cool last night, a low of 2, but we warmed up to 18. Now, bear in mind, at this time of year, Thunder Bay should see daytime highs of about 16. That's normal for this time of year. So 18, nothing to complain about under partly cloudy skies. Winds from the east, about 5 to 17 kilometers per hour throughout the day. But if you head a little further west, there's a lot of heat building. Fort Frances currently at their high of 21. Yes, 21, and they too are usually looking at daytime highs of about 16 at this time of year. As we head up into Dryden, they're at 20 at this hour. Kenora, 22. Red Lake, 20, but again, lots of sunshine. 18 in Sioux Lookout. Even Pickle Lake is currently at 19 at this hour. Armstrong, 16. It is a little cooler as you head further east. There's a lot of sunshine. Greenstone at a high of 17, and along the North Shore a little bit cooler, but still very seasonal, even maybe a little above seasonal, because Marathon is usually just a touch cooler. One of the other cooler locations is Sault Ste. Marie. They're usually warmer than us at this time of year, but they're just at 14 despite a whole lot of sunshine today. Now, here in the city of Thunder Bay tonight, it's going to be a lot milder, a low of 9 despite clear skies. We're going to hold on to some of that heat. Winds are going to be very light from the southeast, about 7 kilometers per hour at times, gusting up to 19. And as we head into Tuesday, we're kind of between systems. The cooler air is definitely sitting on the eastern half of Lake Superior, and it's going to divide the region into 2 completely different stories, below seasonal and definitely above seasonal. And a warm front pushing through southern Manitoba and through Minnesota is going to push warmer air to the east and keep temperatures this week definitely well above normal. Thunder Bay, however, we sit just between those 2 regions, and I'll have more details on what that will do to your forecast later on in the news hour.
Thanks, Fiona. Well, Parliament is back, but most of the drama wasn't inside the House of Commons. It was actually outside the House of Commons. We'll have more on that and more when we return.
Bottom line is that they have agreed to support the Government of Canada in our efforts to stabilize food price in Canada.